And we are live. Thank you guys so much for joining our Coldcard and PSBT webinar today. My name is Phil Geiger. I'm the Director of Product Marketing. I'll be running sort of the chat and the questions and answers. I'm going to turn it over to these guys in a little bit, but just as a brief introduction, Unchained Capital is a Bitcoin native financial services company. We help you hold your own keys in multi-signature. Multi-signature is important, particularly as the price is skyrocketing. Generally, when number go up, sleep go down, unless you have good security. Multi-sig helps you by eliminating single points of failure so that your hardware wallets, your physical location, your seeds, none of those are points of failure anymore. We're really proud to be releasing support for Coldcard and PSBT, which takes your security even a step further. It allows you to air gap your security, so your hardware wallets never need to touch a computer. So once again, welcome everyone. I'm going to turn over the mic to our Chief Product Officer, Will Cole. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks Phil. Before we get started, quick shout out to Rodolfo and Peter at CoinKite, the makers of the Coldcard wallet. Justin and I, over the last several months, have spent a lot of time going back and forth with them on technical specifications, integration issues, and they've been a fabulous team to work with. But really, I'm here to introduce Justin Moore, who's going to be walking you through how to use the air-gapped Coldcard with Unchained all the way through to sovereign recovery on Caravan. Justin's a software engineer for us who led this project on the Coldcard integration, but also on PSBT in our proprietary application and open source applications. Outside of working with the CoinKite team, we've had a lot of fun with this. And one of the good news things about this integration is that getting PSBT into our applications gives us a lot more opportunity for future integrations in the future. With more hardware wallets and more standards, PSBT has been a big win for us, and we hope that you like what you're about to see. So Justin, why don't you take it away?
All right. Cool. Yeah, so thanks for that introduction, Will. As you said, my name is Justin. I'm really into Bitcoin, fun guy in space. And prior to entering, Bitcoin's gravitational field, I was many years deep pursuing a PhD in astrophysics. Today, we're going to talk about a variety of things. Some of them are operational, some are technical. I want to teach you how to incorporate one of the most secure devices, like we've been talking about, an air-gapped Coldcard, into one of the most secure setups, which is, collaborative custom multisig with Unchained. Okay, so my hope is that this will be informative and enjoyable for you. It's perfectly normal when you get going on this to feel a little bit overwhelmed, like, oh, am I doing something wrong, or this is too complicated. One of my goals here is to kind of like make that a little bit less of a problem, and give you the sense that you can do this. Yeah, I want to say up front, it's a bit weird these days, giving talks and webinars where there's a lot of people here, but I don't see them, and I don't know if they're paying attention to me. I've given a lot of talks over the years in a variety of subjects, but going on one of these webinars, like, again, yeah, I don't know if people are listening, like if they already know the extraterrestrial origin of time traveling Satoshi, or if the jokes are landing, right? Because it's all mute. So I'm gonna just take that in, and I'd rather give this talk in person, but for now we'll push forward despite that disconnect in the audience feedback loop. So like Phil said, he's gonna be managing the Q&A. So like if something doesn't make sense, please just submit a question to the Q&A, and we will. I'll go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, and actually along those lines, we had a question already. Can you just please make sure to describe what a PSBT is, and any of the acronyms that we're using? Just go ahead and do a quick 2-sentence intro of what they mean.
Yeah. So we'll get into PSBT heavy in a little bit, but just for right now, PSBT is partially signed Bitcoin transaction. That's what it stands for. I'm gonna delay telling you more about it because I got that in my flow. And that kind of like segues into my next little point here, which is that normally when I give a talk, I say interrupt me anytime. But today we're gonna kind of want to get through a couple flows without like losing our place. So I have built in a place where you know, we'll open it up for questions. And so you know, let's get to it, right? All right, so let me just share my screen. Okay, sharing. Okay, there we go. Is it working? Okay, great. So I've already got a bunch of stuff set up, obviously. And you know, done a little prep work in advance. And you can see I've got 2 Coldcard simulators here. Today we're gonna import keys from them. We're gonna build a multisig vault, and then we're gonna sign a couple transactions. You know, these Coldcards are sitting here. They've already been unlocked and initiated. It doesn't matter whether you're plugging into the wall or plugging into a 9-volt battery, or if you plugged it into your computer. It doesn't matter. Like, the screen should look a lot like that. The reason I'm going to go with using the Coldcard simulators today is it makes demonstrating a whole lot easier for me. It also makes it easier for you to see like what buttons am I pushing. You know, I'm not sitting here with a physical device going like, okay, do you see this? Yep. And I'm, you know, we're dealing with autofocus and whatnot. So that's why we're using simulators. Your interactions with Unchained Capital products and your physical Coldcard devices should match up exactly with what I'm doing, especially if you're on firmware 3.1.9. The only difference here is that there's the transferring of the files between your computer and the Coldcard via the SD card. That step is going to be trivial for me because I'm pretending like a folder on my computer is the SD card. Okay, so I'll point that out again, like throughout the talk, but you know, just keep that in mind. So with our Coldcards initialized, they've already been unlocked via the PIN code. They have SD cards inside of them. That's all we need from the device perspective. And we can now go do things in Unchained's application. We can do things in Caravan. You're ready to go. So the first thing we're doing here is going to be to add some keys to Unchained, our Unchained account. So you would need to have one of those. And then we are going to build a vault. Okay, so let's find my mouse. Okay, step 1 here is that, you know, we're going to create some keys. So I'm going to go to keys and we're going to make some new ones. Okay. You'll notice that I already kind of labeled which device is which up here. Those are the names I'm going to use for the keys. And I'm going to select Coldcard as the device. And here we are, right? So we have some instructions. And basically, what we want to do is now have the Coldcard tell us, like, here is the key that you want, okay? So we're going to do that first on this one, and then we'll go do it on the other one when we make a second key. Okay, so here we go. Within the menus, it says go to settings, right? So I can barely see settings, so I know it's, you know, all the way down here at the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to click the check. Next menu is multisig wallets. Again, you can see it like just barely off the screen. Okay, there it is. And finally, export xpub. Okay, that one's the third one down. So we click that. It's going to give us a little info about what it's doing and what you would use this for. You know, it's telling you where the keys are coming from. I'm not going to go into all this detail. Just suffice it to say that if I click the check, you know, it says you wrote an xpub file. There it is. Okay, and you can see it appeared in my micro SD, you know, quote unquote micro SD folder here. Okay, so I did that step. The next step says upload it. Okay, well, let's take this and put it there and go. Okay, again, just review the key. Great. So we have now uploaded a key from the device that we're calling Serioporus, and you know, that's all we need to do at the moment. So go back to our keys. We're going to do the exact same process to grab this from the other device. Okay, so upload a new key. Next, it'll be Coldcard again, and we got to do that same same procedure. Okay, so we go down here to settings, click, and then go down here to multisig wallets, and then we export the XPub. Again, it'll tell you what it's doing, right? The Coldcard always tells you on the screen the name of the file that it made. So, there it is right there. So now we have 2 of them in there. Again, if you have one SD card and you clear it every time, like you're not going to have both of them in there at the same time like this. But for this demo, that's what I'm doing. So I'll take this file now and do the same thing. Bring it in. Yep. Okay. Is all of that right? Yes, it is. Great. Okay. So we have account keys. So okay, so what's next? Okay, so we want to use keys derived from these keys to create a product, a vault. Let's say today we're talking about vaults. So we want to create a vault now. So on the website we'll go to vaults, obviously, and we're going to create a new one. But before we go into making that vault, I want to take a brief second just to talk about kind of high-level thoughts that we have at Unchained in terms of bringing in new hardware devices. So to the greatest extent possible, like we're trying to align your use of the hardware devices with what the manufacturer is telling you to do. So their recommendations and instructions, we want you to follow them. We don't want to be in a position where we are telling you, like, do something that's counter to what the manufacturer of your device is telling you to do. And we take that very seriously. So in particular, we're going to talk about kind of some design decisions for how to get Coldcard integrated. In most cases, the Coldcard device itself is air-gapped and it's not connected to your computer. So air-gapped, it's just, it sounds fancy, but it literally just means like there's air all around your device. Like it's not connected to a computer. Yeah, so but in creating or in using an air-gapped device, we have a kind of a dilemma, right? Which is how does this device learn about the other keys in this multisig, right? Like we need to teach it. So, oops. Okay, that's great. Live demos, let's go. I'll fix it in a second. But basically, how does the device learn about the other members of the multisig? Okay, so there's a couple of choices that you could imagine going with, and we'll just talk about them at a high level here. Okay, so the first thing you can imagine is that every time you want to send a transaction over to the device, you also include all of the necessary key information, such that the device itself can learn about the other members of the multisig. It can learn where in BIP32 space does it need to find a key it's going to sign with, and that's fine. You can do that. You can shove it in the file that you're going to transfer over. But the problem is that you're literally including all the details of your multisig vault in every single transaction file that you use. And so you have this PSBT file, which we'll talk about more later, and it has the transaction in it. But in this first way of solving this problem, like it also has all of the details about your vault, and that's not really ideal. So Coldcard recommends against doing this, and we looked at the trade-offs and these two approaches as well, and we agree with them. Like we don't think that you should be putting your XPubs into your PSBTs. Okay, so if that's the way that we're saying we don't want to go that way, the other way of doing it is that we have this kind of we want to create a file that's the details of this vault, and transfer that over and kind of install it onto the Coldcard itself. So now the Coldcard is storing that information about the vault in its own memory. Okay, and you can think of this as kind of like a one-time setup. It's not strictly a one-time setup, because there are times where if you replaced a key or some firmware change, maybe you might have to do this one more time. But in general, it's a one-time setup thing. Okay, so after you install the config file on your device, you can safely delete that file, And then continuing forward from that, every transaction that you send over to the device, it doesn't have any information about the vault. So, that's much better from a privacy perspective. We don't want that information in every single transaction that we create. Okay, so at that point, like that's a little aside. So let me just log back in here. Okay, and we're going to create a vault. So I'm going to go through most of these default settings. I'm not going to, this is not a talk about like all the things that you can do with Unchained vaults. It's basically a talk about Coldcard. So what we're going to do is give our vault a name, and we're going to pick the keys that we created, which is, if you forget, they're here. So pick them. The other one is Laetiparus. Okay, we'll pick that one. And then Unchained is going to be our backup key. All right. And we are going to agree to the terms service agreement, and we will create our vault. Now, this page right here is exactly what I was just talking about. Okay, so if you're using a Coldcard in your vault, you want to go ahead and do this setup file where you install the config. It's not strictly necessary that you do it right this second. But just, you already have your devices with you, you're setting it up, like just go ahead and get it ready. If you don't do it now, that'll be fine. It's just that when you go to sign later on, you'll have to do it then. Okay, so yeah, so here we go. We are going to, we are using a Coldcard, so we're going to click that. All right, and again, we have some instructions, a file, and some menu options on the devices themselves. Okay, so I'm going to download this file, and I'm going to move it over to my SD card. Now, again, I don't have to do anything because I'm using a simulator. So you would need to take your SD card out of your computer now and put it into your Coldcard. Okay, now the Coldcards that are here are still sitting in this same. Let me just back it out so that we follow the directions. Okay, so if you came on your Coldcard, this is what you would do. Go down to settings. Okay, settings, multisig wallets. Okay, here we go, and then import from SD. Okay, so we're going to import it. Pick the file. Okay, there's only one of them. Okay, well, it's that one. That's the one I want. Okay, the details are in here. It's telling you that's a 2 of 3 multisig. There are, you can ask for it to show you the XPubs. I'm not going to do that right now, but it exists for you to be, cautious and maybe more paranoid to go, make sure that this has the information that you want. I'm going to install that config, right? So now you can see that I have one installed now. It says 2 out of 3 and has this name. Okay. I am so at that point I have my vault installed on this Coldcard, right? I need to do the same thing on my other one. Okay, so again, this one's still in the menus, so the option that I want is just right there. So I'm not gonna go back out of the menus and come back. So let's just click that one. Okay, again, the SD card, I'm using a directory, so it's already there for me. There's the file. Do you really want to do this? It's a 2 of 3. Yes, I do want to do that. Okay. So now I'm going to hit, I'm just hitting the X button three or four times to go back to the top level main menu. Okay. So here we go. We've got a vault. We've installed the config file. We can, delete these things off of our, don't need to have those anymore. And we are, we're sitting here with a vault. Okay, so the thing I was going to mention from earlier, which was that okay, if you don't do that step right away, like this is right here at Coldcard config, that's where you would get that file. Okay, it's available to you if you don't do it right away. All right, so now we have a vault. Okay. So now that we have a vault, we're gonna do everybody's favorite thing, which is when you set up Bitcoin, which is like, let's do a little test transaction to make sure that, I did it right, and or, Bitcoin still works. And so, that's what we're going to do now. So let's say, okay, we have this vault. I lost my mouse. Oh, here it is. Okay. And what we want to do is, okay, let's figure out what's the address of this vault. Here it is. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to send a little bit of coin from another wallet on another screen. So just 1 second. Okay. And do that. I am using reg test for this demo. That's not really necessary for us to go into too much detail. Just, it's not mainnet Bitcoin. It's not testnet Bitcoin. It's my local testnet, so that I can, we don't have to sit here and wait for blocks to be mined. Okay. So if I refresh the page, we'll see, okay, I sent a little 0.01 BTC, and it's pending. Now my local thing mines a block every minute or so. So we just need to pause for a second and it'll get mined. Yeah, once this is in, which probably is in now. Yep. Okay. So it's confirmed. It is sitting in this vault. Okay. Now the thing that we want to do is practice and go through a transaction to make sure that, we're comfortable. Okay, so we'll go to withdrawal. I'm going to paste in an address, which, and every time you paste in an address, make sure it's the full address, the same address that you want. So we'll put that in. I'm going to leave these things default, just go to a max withdrawal and click next. And then I'm going to pick those 2 keys because those are what I want to sign with. Okay, so here we go. And we're going to create a withdrawal. Now, at this, so we're going to select the key that we want to sign with. Okay, I keep losing my mouse on the other screen. Sorry. Okay, so we have a device, and we know that we want to use Coldcard. Okay, so this is the moment where we're like, okay, everything's making sense so far, but what the hell is a PSBT? And so this is where I'm going to take a break here before we actually sign this transaction to just kind of talk about it a little bit. We will mention a little bit at the top, but essentially, if you have these air-gapped devices or devices that want to communicate via QR codes or animations of QR codes, you need to, what you need is you have this block of data and you want to get it to the device. Now, that is like the most common problem ever. And everyone has their own idea of the best way to do it. So yeah, I have this data, I want to serialize it in this way and send it over. And then another company or device manufacturer is like, well, I have this data and I want to do it in this other way, right? So what that does is cause confusion, and it causes difficulty for users. It also causes difficulty for developers, but like, who cares? And so where we're at with this is we need a standard, okay? And PSBT, we talked about it before, partially signed Bitcoin transaction. It's a Bitcoin standard. It's not specific to Coldcard. Coldcard is just implementing it. And now, so are we, right? And by implementing it, it allows us to support devices like Coldcard and other ones that are also in the pipeline. So this PSBT file is a mechanism for taking this transaction data and a little bit extra data and sending it over to a device like via a file, okay? And that's all it is. So we are, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I think that's like a high level way. Okay, so I have this transaction and I want to get it over to this device. How do I do that? Okay, PSBT is like, here's how you do it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into the demo mode. We're going to talk about, okay, I want to move this, I want to do this test transaction and move these funds. So we got instructions here, right? Ensure your Coldcard has the wallet config installed. Like, check, we did that already. Again, if you didn't do it, you would have to do it now. Download and save this PSBT. Okay, we'll do that. Download and save, and I'll copy it over to the SD card. Choose ready to sign. Okay, now right now we're signing for late Tipperus, so I'm going to go over to that device over here, and I'm going to click follow the directions, right? So ready to sign. When there's only one PSBT in your SD card, it just automatically selects that one and starts going forward. And now it's asking me to confirm, right? So everything on the screen, I need to make sure everything on the screen matches everything that I want, where I want this to go. Okay, so 991,475, there's the amount. And here's the address. And yep, you definitely want to look at all of them. Yeah, as the price skyrockets, that makes this part of the transfer. You definitely want to do that. Network fee is the same. There it is. Okay, and press OK to approve and sign this transaction. Check. Okay, cool. It signed it. Now, I want to make a brief discussion here about like, okay, so I could take this file and drag it in and grab the next key and do the same process. But because I already have both of the devices here with me in this scenario where these two cold cards are sitting on my desk and I'm doing this setup for the first time, I can go ahead and sign the other. Sorry, I can sign the partially signed. This one, I don't really like the name PSBT, mostly because it gets you in a weird state, right? So particularly in multisig, a transaction can be unsigned. It can be partially signed, meaning one of the keys has signed, or it can be fully signed, meaning all of them have signed. In our case, that's two. So to say I have a partially signed PSBT is like I have a partially signed Bitcoin transaction. It doesn't really work. But whatever, the file format's recognizable. We can get beyond that. On the next device, like if I took my SD card out of this cold card and I put it into this cold card and I didn't change it, so it looks the same as this. When I go over here and say ready to sign, it's going to say, okay, there's two different PSBT files in here. You need to pick one. All right. Now, if I click this first one, this bottom one, sorry, I'm using a keyboard. If I were to sign this one, that's the unsigned. There's no signature data in this one. That's the one I downloaded from Unchained. Okay. The first one, however, is the output from the signing process of my other key. Okay, so in this example, you can do it either way. It'll work both ways. But in this first transaction, I'm going to doubly sign this. So I'm going to add my signature on top of the one that's already there. Okay, so I'm going to click that one. It's okay to send. Same thing. You make sure your amounts are right. Make sure. I shouldn't use the keyboard. Make sure your address matches. We got a bay in there, a lot of Z's. Yep, URD. Okay, so that matches, and we signed it. Okay. Now you'll see this time it spit out a file that says part-2. Okay. And what we're going to do next step over here after verify transaction details and sign, we already did that. Upload the sign. Okay, you can do either one. I'm going to do the one that has both sets of signatures in it. Okay, so we'll drag that over, and you'll see that our application saw, oh, you actually have two sets of signatures in here. I'm going to validate them and make sure that this is a proper signature. And it found that both of those were proper, and it marks them as signed, and I can broadcast this transaction now. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll broadcast it. All right, there was an error. Great, live demos. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, it says there was an error. It was an error. Again, this is live demo. This is what happens. All right, so we're sitting in this situation now where we have added keys. We have created a vault. We have sent a little bit of coin to it, and we have successfully signed that transaction and sent it back out. Okay. So then at this point, we're feeling pretty confident. Okay. And we have this going. So let's go ahead and move our stash. Okay. So let me just go find my mouse. Okay. We have a new address. All right. And I'm going to, again, use this other wallet to send some coin over. Okay. And I did that. So it's, my mouse is, the mystery of where my mouse is for this has been quite fun. But anyway, all right. So we've got, now we've got some, larger transactions. We're feeling confident. Everything's here. Okay. And again, my local setup should mine this, within a minute or so. And at that point, we are kind of like done, right? So let me just make sure that it's going. Yeah, it should be. And at that, and so now we are kind of situated. Okay, so you see it moved from pending to confirmed, and we're sitting here, and that's the where this is the place that we want to get to. Now, there's one more thing that I want to talk about before that break and the questions appears, and that is, I'm not going to go into the details of what's in this file and how do you protect it and store it. That we have another webinar that we did that in the past, but I just want to make it known that I want to grab this external spending information and save it. Okay, so I'm going to download that and save it. I just have it for the next part of the demo. Again, I think we can make available the last time we gave a talk about how to use that file and what you should do with it and what is in there. But you can, at a high level, you can think of it as like, this is the treasure map that shows you how to navigate this vault. You still can't sign for it or anything like that. You need to have the devices to do that. But it lets you recover, if that comes up and you need to do that. So that point, I am going to pause before we go over into Caravan to see if any of that made sense, or we have some questions queued up.
All right,
So
we do actually. Oh, go ahead, Will.
I was gonna say we've been answering some questions in real time here.
Cool.
I think one thing that came up that I just, in case people aren't following the chat, they've asked sort of an order of operations. Can you have two separate SD cards? Can you sign, each key on the same SD card? In the case that you just did, we took the single PSBT, we put it on one SD card, and we applied a signature from two separate devices on that same SD card. However, it'll work just fine, just the same if you had an SD card in each Coldcard device. If you downloaded the PSBT, if you applied a single signature on one device and a single signature on the other device and uploaded those as a two-step process, we would recognize that the same way. Really, either way is valid. It's not a problem. In this case, I think, if you're sitting there at your desk, you have your two cold cards, using one card might be easier for some people. If you're geographically distributed, if you're signing with a partner in a business or something like that, putting one signature up at a time will work just as well.
Yep.
We had another question, Justin, on the setup here. Just someone wondering, oh, you're doing, not even testnet, you're doing it locally and you have these emulators. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so it might be a bigger discussion than this talk, but yeah, basically reg test is you're running your own version of the blockchain locally, and the simulators are provided by Coldcard. You just need to go to their GitHub and download it and set it up on your machine. But there was it did break at some point with an update to Mac OS. But I'm not sure if that's been remedied or not. But essentially, the emulators are coming from, the simulators are coming from Coldcard, and the reg test is just a mode that you can set up your Bitcoin node to be in. such that you can do kind of like, more real-time testing and mind blocks whenever you want, and you don't have to wait on anything.
Justin, there was one more question that I think we might want to address before moving forward, and that is when you upload your XPubs from your Coldcard, the XPubs that people see for their vault or the ones that we actually show when we do the export are different from the ones in the file. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, you can think about those paths in the file, or anytime you're talking about BIP32 space, you can think about that path as like a directory structure on your computer. And so, when Coldcard exports the XPub onto that file, they kind of give us like a top level directory. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with just using that as it is, but to kind of like separate out a chunk of, it's like if you are using your desktop as, it's like if you have no folders on your desktop, or if you have folders. I think that will make sense for everybody. It's basically like, okay, there's nothing wrong with using your desktop as like the place where everything lives, but sometimes we want a little bit more order. So we're going to create a folder, and then maybe inside of that one, we're going to create another folder, and then that's where we'll put all of our stuff. Okay, and so that's a difference. Like for example, the Coldcard file exports M45 prime. Okay, so that would be like desktop. And then when you look at the path, when you're adding a key to Unchained's application, you'll see 45 prime /0/0. Okay, that's like I made a folder called 0, and then inside of that one, I made a folder called 0. And then this is where I want to use all of the key material for this particular product.
One more question I wanted to address before we moved on. Someone asked, if you do the signing geographically separated, does that mean you need to share Unchained account login password? And I'll take that real fast, which is the answer is no. We do support multi-party accounts. They're under our business accounts. We'll soon be launching joint accounts and lots of other configurations for multi-party accounts, but it is one of the ways that Unchained makes money. If you have a business reason to want to have a business wallet and it's geographically separated, you can sign up as a business entity on Unchained. You can have multiple parties, have different roles and permissions like view only or administrators that can do everything, and y'all can collaborate in the same account to transact with your Bitcoin.
Cool. Are we good to move over to Caravan now?
I think so. We'll address more questions after the Caravan bit. Okay,
great. All right, so we're picking it right back up. Okay, all of these examples, today are using local things on my machine that I'm doing as a developer. So, for example, I'm going to use a Caravan that's running locally for me. That's available to you as an individual as well, or you can use the one that's up on GitHub, or you can use anybody that's forked it. You can use that. So, Caravan is this open source application that lets us use the details from that external spend recovery file to recover our funds in the event that something goes wrong. You can't, like Unchained is not there. Okay, this is a common problem in the history of Bitcoin, where the person or entity that you think is your partner just disappears. Okay, and we don't expect that to happen anytime soon, but we want to make you feel secure in that, like, even if that did happen, you can still recover your funds. Okay, you don't need us. So we're going to talk about that now. I've got Caravan loaded here. I want to take a brief detour before I actually recover the funds from this vault and say that, okay, so we constructed a vault of 2 of 3 inside of Unchained's application. Caravan is a little bit more generic. You can make 1 of 1. I'm sorry, 1 of 2, 1 of 3. You can go over here and play with the settings as much as you'd like. Okay, I'm not actually going to build anything with Coldcard in Caravan, but like it should be obvious that you could do that, right? And all you do is the same process that we did before, which is, okay, I wanna import a XPub. I'm gonna use you know, a Coldcard, and look, it's the same thing we saw earlier, right? Go to settings, multisig wallets, export XPub, and then put that file in here. Okay, it's the same process. You can go through this and build your build whatever kind of multisig thing you want. You know, I've played around with going crazy with this. Don't really recommend that. You know, the things get pretty complicated, but it's there, it's available. Okay. So for the purpose of time and trying to keep this thing on track, we're going to only deal with that recovery file that we saved earlier. Okay, so I'm going to click import and bring it in, saprophytic, and it's going to say, all right, so I see, you know, Unchained has some key in here. There's your Serioporus, there's your Latiparus. Okay, cool. I'm going to confirm this. And what is going to happen is Caravan is going to look at the blockchain like itself. This is not through Unchained, right? It's just looking on chain. Basically, you see that it found that we have UTXOs associated with this vault, and it's the same. There's 210 Bitcoin in here. Okay, so in the what we would like to do now is like recover this. Okay, and so I'm just gonna grab an address from my other wallet, and we're gonna go to send. Okay, I'm gonna paste it in, and you know, you can put whatever you want. I'm gonna do a max spend. So I'm gonna spend, I wanna clear this thing out. I wanna cover this funds to some other address that I can control. Okay, so let's do that. We're gonna be spending 3 UTXOs for this amount of coin. And here's all the details. This is where it's going. Let's do it. So we go to sign transaction. Okay. We are going to pick, this is similar to what we did earlier. We're gonna pick the key that we wanna sign with. We're gonna sign, and then we're gonna, you know, broadcast the transaction. So let's pick Serioporus. Here we go. And we're gonna pick the method. So like, what kind of wallet are you using? We'll pick Coldcard. Now, again, because we already did that config installation, the wallet config installation at the beginning of this whole process, like the Coldcard still knows about the vault, that nothing's going to change with that. I just need to get this PSBT. Okay, so again, ensure your Coldcard has the wallet installed. We already did that. Transfer this over there. Okay, so I'm going to download this file and move it over to my Coldcard. Sorry, my SD card, and then move that over to my Coldcard. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click ready to sign, right? And then we're going to verify the details and sign it. So again, do you want to send this coin to this address? And again, we will look through. We got Bay, we got a bunch of Z's in a row here. We got, okay, yep. All right, cool. And the fee is this, and that matches up. Okay, so press OK to sign. I'm going to click the check. You'll see, all right, it signed it. Cool. So now, in the previous example, I went on and I said, okay, I want to sign this partially signed one. Let's do the other example, the other case where you're geographically dispersed and you just sign this transaction and you want to add it. So we just drag that in, and it says, great, we found some signatures in here. They're valid, and we've got them loaded up. So cool. So now I'm going to pretend that this is a different SD card. Now it's empty. There's nothing on it. And we're going to go to, the next key that we want to sign with. So let's go with that one. We'll pick Coldcard. And again, we download the PSBT because we deleted it. We transfer it over to the folder. And then again, we don't have to sign. We don't have to install the wallet config because we already did that before. So we just need to sign this transaction. Okay, so we'll click ready to sign. Sorry, I clicked enter instead of clicking this check. And again, confirm all the details. Do this, right? Make sure it's the address that you expect it to be all the way through. The whole oh, just check the first 3, check the last 3. You should check more than that. Okay, so again, there it is, and there's the fee. Okay, press OK to sign this. Yeah, I would like to do that. Again, it spits out the same thing with part on the end. So I'm gonna do that, bring it over, upload it. Okay, cool. So you see that Caravan has now grabbed signatures from the first one, signatures from the second one, and constructed a signed transaction, which will move all of these UTXOs into whatever address that I specified, right? So I'll click broadcast, and it's gone, right? So now it's, it successfully broadcast the transaction. If I go back to the main page, you'll see like, okay, I don't have a balance in here anymore. And there's nothing here. If I click this spent addresses, you'll see like, oh, cool. So this was that first address we used when we did that little test transaction. Okay, and it's 0. It doesn't have it, and it was spent. And then here's that next address that we just literally spent from, and it's also 0 and gone to wherever we sent it. Okay, so the point that we want to come to here is that, okay, you can recover your funds without Unchained. We have like tried to really streamline the process to go from an Unchained product then out via Caravan. But Caravan is not the only thing that you could use to do this, right? The information that's contained inside of that external spin file can be used in other wallets as well, other software. It's not as streamlined because we're still working on that process. But in an ideal world, it doesn't matter what wallet you load this, what software you load this wallet into, you can recover your funds, okay? So now that we've successfully recovered the funds out of this vault, even though we did not use Unchained's private application, we feel, like, okay, wow, that was cool, right? The point of all of this is that you're sovereign, like you are still in control of your funds. You have the keys. We are simply here as a support, as a collaborator. We can't move your funds. We don't have enough keys, and you control it. And also, you're not relying on a single point of failure, at the protocol level. You're not relying on a single point of failure at the company level, and you're not relying on a single point of failure at the recovery level either. So the future of this is, making it streamlined to do the same thing that we just did in Caravan, in Electrum, in Spectre, and Sparrow, and all these other wallets, right? There's no reason that it shouldn't be possible. In fact, one of our clients, blazed a trail on his own and then did this in Sparrow, and that was cool. There's a little hiccups with Electrum right now, trying to work those out, but yeah. So anyway, at the moment, that's kind of wraps up my part of this demo. We've let's just recap real quick. We set up 2 cold cards. We grabbed 2 keys from those cold cards. We used those keys to create a vault. We deposited a little bit of funds in there and sent it out to like kind of practice and make sure that we know what we're doing. And then we dumped a bunch of stuff in there. And okay, so cool. That would be a great place to be. And as Phil was saying earlier, like, you don't have to stress and like worry about the protection of your funds if the price goes crazy, because you've already put in this work and you're sitting here on a secure platform. Yeah, so finally, and we went through the unlikely disaster scenario that you can't access Unchained. Like, well, no worries, you can still get to your funds. Yeah, so at this point, we'll go back to full question mode.
All right, thanks, Justin. That was great. We have a few questions that I think would be really helpful to cover. One is somebody tracks their Bitcoin addresses using sort of their XPubs for their single signature address or a given address. Is that possible with multisig? And what does the future look like there? Can you take this file that you've produced and share it with other services?
Yeah, so totally. That file that has all this information in it, it's essentially like creating a watch-only wallet, because it has all the public keys, but it doesn't have the private keys. So you can't sign, but you can compute. So in the same way that you could say, like, okay, Electrum, like show me the next 20 addresses. You can do the same thing in Caravan. And that file gives you the information needed to, did my internet freeze? Oh,
no, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It looked like both of y'all were like, okay, so yeah, that's totally possible. And this file will enable it. Again, it's not quite streamlined at the moment, but that's totally an application that would be available.
Can I add one thing to that? Is that you know, what we call an external spin file. This is very common across, you know, Spectre, Electrum, Sparrow, you know, all the Caravan. It's what you need to create the wallet. Now, the format of that file, we don't all agree on the format of that file. So sometimes you might have to copy and paste things into each one of those applications. But all the atomic units, all the bits of information are the same across. It's just Bitcoin. It's just a Bitcoin wallet. And all of those applications know how to create and read a Bitcoin wallet. So all the information you get in our file, well, we make it super simple just to upload into Caravan. You could take that same information, copy and paste it into Spectre, take a minute, and you'd be fine.
Yeah, it highlights the same problem that we were talking about earlier with like, hey, we have this transaction, want to move it over here. And then everyone's like, I know how to do it. And then you have 12 ways to do it. It's the same problem.
Yeah.
Another, I think, really good question that somebody had is they said, I thought that I heard that you could use Caravan to build your own multi-sig wallets, but the file that you imported contained one of Unchained Capital's keys. So can you talk about how to maybe quickly set up your own multi-sig wallet using Caravan versus the recovery?
Yeah. So I try to go over that briefly, but basically I just cleared out the wallet here, and I'm still showing here. Like if I wanted to make my own wallet, you know, I would do it right here. So I went to Caravan, I clicked on wallet, like my new wallet, and you know, I named my keys. Probably shouldn't have them the same. And you pick your devices, and for example, you pick your 2 cold cards, you upload your 2 XPubs, and you're good to go. You're off and running. Like you don't. Now, obviously, this is Caravan is highly tuned for a specific reason. That's what we built it for, a particular reason. There are a lot more things that you can do with it, but you know, proceed with caution. Like, don't go crazy. I mean, go crazy, but also don't. You know what I mean?
I'll point out that Caravan is a little bit different from some of the wallets that you might have used in the past. So Caravan is stateless, meaning once you leave Caravan, we don't remember anything. Once your session ends on your browser or whatever, we forget everything about that wallet. So unlike something like Electrum or Spectre, where you're downloading a desktop client, where you're giving it your wallet information, it's remembering it, you can load it back up later. Caravan is an ephemeral wallet. Like you could keep all the information and not have it stored, you know, anywhere. You know, it's kind of cool for that reason, but it is stateless. We treat it as a recovery mechanism for Unchained vaults. Other people have used it for bets and all sorts of things, but the application itself is stateless, and which makes it notably different from things like Electrum and Spectre currently, which are both great alternatives as well if you want something with state.
All right, it looks like we have about 4 minutes left, so maybe we have time for just a couple more questions. One of the other questions that we received, I think might be a good to address is, why is multi-sig more secure than splitting up a recovery seed into 2 parts?
I can start on that, which
Sure.
is you haven't actually eliminated a single point of failure, right? So when you're splitting up your recovery seed, you're still relying on a single signature, right? When we talk about eliminating single points of failure, what we're really talking about is eliminating the need to only apply a single signature to a transaction in order to spend that Bitcoin. So when you split up, whether it's just scrapping up your backup seed or you do some sort of MPC thing over a single signature, you're still in a single point of failure mode. One signature sends the Bitcoin. Multisig is native to the Bitcoin protocol. You don't have to do anything that Bitcoin doesn't want you to do or isn't built to do natively. And from there, you can eliminate that single point, that single signature, where if that single signature is applied, the Bitcoin is spent. That's the benefit of multisig over any form of sharding a single key, of MPC, of scrapping, or any other situation you've heard of with a single key.
Yeah, I just add on to that briefly, which is that they're not strictly opposed, right? So we have another open source tool called Hermit, which allows you to shard a key that is also a member of a multisig, right? So so you can use these things together. We think that your base should be multisig, which is securing the asset, and then if you want to shard up keys, great.
All right, looks like we have about 2 minutes left. Let me just see if there's any other questions that we would want to answer here. So one viewer just asked, do you recommend adding a passphrase to each device for multisig?
I'll let Will go. He's already shaking his head.
I can also take a stab at that one too. So
Yeah,
let me take the first pass. So what I think a lot of folks don't recognize about this passphrase is that what it is a either 13th or 25th word on your seed. So if you forget your passphrase, your seed that you're holding as a backup is now worthless. You're not holding your key anymore. You have to have the seed plus the passphrase. For single signature wallets, passphrases can be really useful because if somebody stumbles upon your 12 or 24 word list that is securing a single signature wallet, they're holding your funds. If they don't have the passphrase and there's passphrases enabled, then it means that 12 or 24 word list is no longer a point of failure. In multisig by default eliminates single points of failure. So it makes it so that your 24 word lists, you can lose one and you're still not at risk of losing funds. Or not at critical risk of losing funds. So adding a passphrase, you can do it, but it actually makes your operational security a lot more complex. It's just more things that you're thinking about and have to secure. So we generally suggest for most folks in multisig, adding a passphrase is not necessary.
Awesome. Everyone, we've hit our hour mark here. Want to thank everyone for joining, all the great questions. If we didn't get to a question or, sorry, we're trying to read through all of these because some of them are being sent as DM type messages. We are available, on Twitter, through the Unchained website. You can send us anything and we'll get back to you. We'll also we'll send some stuff out through email and through Twitter. With the recording of this session. So thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.